Hey guys, Ramsey here. This is going to be my Wizard and Glass spoil-filled review. If you haven't read the books yet, or if you've only read some of the other ones, I'll link the playlist for my Dark Tower series. I just don't feel like there's a good way to talk about these books and not be spoilery, I guess. So if you continue on from this point, you're going to get spoiled. But if you're a fan of the Dark Tower and you want to hear what I thought about it, this is Wizard and Glass. If you want the beginning spoiler-free part, Wizard and Glass, published back in 1994, book 4 of the Dark Tower series. We continue to follow Roland, Jake, Eddie, and Susanna as they make their way towards the Dark Tower. Really, that's about as spoiler-free as I can get. Even that has some spoilers in it. But yeah, it's really the tale of finally they pin Roland down and make him tell his story. One thing before we get started, I wanted to say it is the last audiobook that Frank Muller did, and Frank Muller really has made this series for me. His narration has made it amazingly better. Like, he tragically died in a motorcycle accident, I believe, or a car accident. And Stephen King and some of the other authors that had used him, because he was, he's just a kind of B-movie actor, but his voice was fantastic. And he did a lot of books that, he just breathed life into these characters. Probably, if not favorite audiobook narrator, top 3 audiobook narrator that I've ever listened to personally. So really, I wanted to say Frank Muller made these first 4 books even better for me. And I'm a little nervous to move on to Wizard and Glass this month, coming up in June. You'll see my TBR video and see that I'm gonna try to finish up the series, do Wolves of the Kala, Songs of Susanna, and the Dark Tower. And not having Frank Muller lead me along that path kind of is a little disappointing. Really, the book starts as we left it. Roland had told Blaine the Mono, "You're gonna wait. We're gonna give you your riddle game, but you're gonna wait until we're ready." And so he took some time. He figured it out. They started the riddle game, and man, they riddled the crap out of Blaine the Mono. And Blaine had an answer for everything, except for Eddie's nonsensical riddles, because they didn't have an answer. They didn't have a reason. They were nonsense. They were Eddie breaking the machine, because Eddie could talk things in circles. Eddie's that guy. It's why Eddie's my favorite character in the series. And Eddie's really starting to have, he started in the last book having dreams of the tower, and his dreams of the tower, I think, are really great. I love how Eddie is maturing in a way that pushes him to the tower. He wants to get to the tower not because he's helping Roland, not because he was pulled into Roland's world because Roland had to draw 3. He's pushing for the tower now because he wants to see the tower. He's being led to the tower because he's becoming more. I love that. And then Susanna is worried about what's going to happen because she knows she's pregnant. And if I remember correctly, she hasn't told anybody that she's pregnant. So she's worried because she was raped by the demon, and because she's been making love to Eddie, who's her husband. What is going on with this child? What's the future of them as a family, her and Eddie and the child that they're going to have? What's the future of going to happen? They're from different timelines. She's from the 1960s. He's from the 1980s. It's amazingly complex to what their future holds and who they will be as together as a family. That's a cool dynamic. A cool dynamic you would have never considered. Pulling people from 2 different timelines, like her 1960s of the civil rights era, and his 1980s of fast and free. Let's former drug addict trying to get his life together. It was just that dynamic back and forth was really, really cool to the story. You're really seeing them grow to love one another, and their love for one another really pushes the story through. And I'm a fan of love between husband and wife. Like, I have a great marriage. I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's great. I love my wife. I want to be around my wife. I want to see my wife. She seems to apparently like me a bunch. And so other good marriages, just like leaning on one another and relying on each other for support, and those kind of things, they really are something I love to read about. So finally, they get off the train in Topeka, and it's Topeka, Kansas. And Roland doesn't really know where he is, and then they start to realize that everybody is dead. And it really ties together the Stand and the Dark Tower in a very tangible way. We really saw it at the end of the Wastelands, where Randall Flagg comes and picks up. I wrote his name down. It is Andrew Quick. And Andrew Quick is going to die, and Randall Flagg takes him and says, well, you can call me, what did he call him at the end of Wasteland? It was something RF. I know my buddy Brad Proctor, we were talking that whenever you see RF, that's Randall Flagg, and he's the walking dude. And there's references to the walking dude when they come out in Topeka, Kansas, and they find everybody dead. They kind of learn about the virus, about Captain Trips. And they realize that it's not there 1986, because Jake is from the 70s. So you've got Susanna from the 60s, Jake from the 70s, and Susanna, Jake, and Eddie. So 60s, 70s, 80s. And it's in 86. So none of them have made it to 86 yet. And they're like super worried that this is what the world is if they ever go back, this is what they're going back to. And they realize that they're looking at like the Kansas City Royals or the Kansas City Monarchs, and some of the soda names are different, some stuff like that. So they realize this isn't their world, right? I was going to say United States, but the whole world had Captain Trips. So they realize it's not their world, and they're progressing through Midworld. They come out into Topeka, Kansas, and all of a sudden they see the Emerald City. Like, they know it's the Emerald City from the Wizard of Oz, and it's really, really cool. They walk through it, and things are happening. They're walking down the interstate, and they experience something called the Thinny. And Stephen King does this thing where he doesn't really create something very it's not new. It's sort of simplified, but it's interesting. So like the Thinny basically is just death over there. If you go to the Thinny, which makes a noise that's really, really uncomfortable, you'll die. And you don't need to go in the Thinny. If you go in the Thinny, you'll die. And like, he doesn't have to explain it. It's just a thing, because Midworld is a world that's moved on. And in a world that's moved on, a Thinny is a breaking down of the world, I'm assuming. And, they go from Midworld to Topeka, Kansas, to a different world than their world, and different world from Midworld, because there's other worlds than these, right? And so that's really, really cool. And so finally they get done with Emerald City. I can't remember if they meet up with Randall Flagg, and Randall Flagg is also Martin. So he's Martin, he's Randall Flagg, he's the walking dude, he's the man in black, he's all of these things. And so it's kind of cool that he's tied together through Stephen King's mythos. And I really want to read all the connected books. This read through, I'm just doing the 7 Dark Tower books, but I'm going to read the graphic novels and all that other stuff coming through the next time. But really the main part of the story is when we get out of Emerald City. Yeah, no, because he meets Martin and Andrew Quick again at the end, and he shoots at Martin with Jake's pistol, which is from not his world, so that bullet can hit him, because Roland's bullets can't hit him. So he shoots him with the 9mm, and he's either afraid of it or he's scared of it, and he runs away. But really the main part of the story is learning who Roland is and why Roland is the way that he is. So we follow him as a young man. He just passed his test, the test we heard about, where he used the hawk to beat Court and become a man, become a gunslinger. And you realize how deficient you are when you see like all the things that Roland was able to do at 16 that I was not able to do at 16. He could ride, he could shoot, he was trained. I mean, to the nines. He had all this training. He was like super good at a ton of things. So he goes to this little village called Hambry to kind of get them out of the city, get them away from Martin. His dad sends him and his buddy Cuthbert and Elaine. And when he talks about his quartet, he feels like Eddie is Cuthbert, and you see it. Like they're parallels of one another. And how Elaine is a lot like Susanna. And I don't see that one as much. Elaine is more just like the kind of silent friend who, has your back no matter what. Maybe it's a combination between Susanna and Jake, kind of the way that they're just very good support characters. But yeah, like Roland and Cuthbert's relationship, and then Elaine in the way that he supports them. And just Roland meets a girl and falls in love named Susan Delgado. And it is, I mean, such a wonderful version of young teenage love. It, like, for a man to write teenage love in such a way that I wish I had fallen in love like this as a teenager. Gosh, man, it was, man, powerful. Really, really, really good. I think Stephen King does the best with characters. He doesn't always end his stories well. He doesn't always, do some other things well. But man, he can write a set of characters. I mean, wow. And then you deal with what they're trying to do is they're trying to count things and see what's going on, right? And you've got this guy, Farson, who is really the bad guy of what his father's been dealing with. Farson is coming to destroy Gilead. And so Hambry is supposed to supply Gilead with horses and stuff like that. Well, they've got this big oil well called Citgo, and they don't know how to work the pumps. They don't know what to do with them. The world has moved on, and they're past oil pumps. They don't know how to use them. They're just moving and working and doing stuff, but nobody ever uses them. They're just over there. They're making noise. Sometimes they catch on fire. And so they're supposed to go out there, check on the oil pumps, check on the horses, count the horses. And he meets Susan like right away. They kind of meet one another. Well, first you meet Susan talking to Rhea. Rhea is creepy and gross. Rhea is, ugh. Like, imagine like the oldest, nastiest hag. Like old women generally are not gross, but old hags are gross. And Rhea is gross. Like, super gross. And she gets given this pink grapefruit. Man, what do they call it? What do they call that thing? But she's given this ball, and it shows all of the bad things around her. And she gets completely enamored with this. It ruins her life. It's one of the baubles of the world, I think. There's more than one, but I don't know how many. And Susan Delgado is supposed to be married to Mayor Thorin, who's old, and he wants a concubine to have a child. Really, it sounds like a very creepy, gross 16-year-old girl is sent to an old man to bear his child. He paid for her to bear his child, and it really just sounds like he wants a young mistress. Hard on his wife, Olive. And then her aunt, who is kind of negotiated the deal, is also pretty gross and creepy. Her dad died in a her dad was murdered because he wanted to tell Gilead that they were lying about the number of horses they were having because they're working with Farson because Farson's paying them more than Gilead's paying them. And then there's the big Coffin Hunters, right? So the big Coffin Hunters are there as like protection for the city, but they're not really protection for the city. They're just a bunch of people watching. And so Roland, Elaine, and Cuthbert come in, and the big Coffin Hunters are failed the main guy, Eldred Jonas, is a failed gunslinger. So he's pretty good, but he's not good enough to be a gunslinger, and Court threw him out. And so there's a battle where Jake and no, not Jake. There's this situation where Eldred Jonas and Roland have to kind of work against one another, and different factions are trying to war with one another. Some people like the kids, some people don't. They have to find, like, Eldred Jonas has to find a way to create, like, where they want to hurt them, and so he kills the mayor and does a bunch of stuff where, like, Clay and Roy are basically his. You have, like, I'm not being very clear with this. So Eldred Jonas has Clay and Roy, and they're his three, kind of his quartet, right? And then you have who's the simple guy? There's a man with a mental handicap who I can't remember his name. Dadgummit, I wish I had the book with me. He is really the go-between between Roland and Susan joins their quartet. It's really, really good. Really, really good. The way it ends, man. Susan's death is so tragic, so painful. Man, you understand why Roland doesn't want to get close to anyone, why Roland's afraid to get close to people. And I just really, 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 really enjoyed this book. I really did. Wolves of the Kala starting next. I'm having a hard time putting it all together. And so I wanted to just share thoughts with you guys. Let me know what you thought. Obviously, if you're still here, you've read the book, tell me in a comment what you're thinking. What was your favorite part? What did you think about the romance? Let me know who your favorite character is. I really, really enjoyed, as a side character, the mentally handicapped kid. What was his name? I can't remember. But yeah, like, your favorite character. Obviously, I told you mine's Eddie. You guys are a Roland fan? Jake, Susanna, Susan, whoever. That'd be really cool to know who you guys are fans of. And thank you so much for joining me, guys. I love making videos on BookTube and talking about books with you guys. I didn't have a ton of friends who are book fans, and so this is just a group of people who enjoy reading and talking about books, and that's hugely and amazingly powerful for me, and I'm so thankful that I have people that I can do that with. So talk to you guys later. Bye. See ya.